It is a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Zachary Kingsberg, all the way from Dallas, Texas. Dr. Kingsberg graduated from Nova Southeastern University in sunny Florida in 2015 and has been practicing dentistry in Dallas, Texas since graduation. Dr. Kingsberg, or Dr. Z, is host of a new amazing podcast, which I love, called the Disillusioned Dentist. The Disillusioned Dentist podcast is designed for new grads, current dental students, and pre-dental students with a focus of getting young grads out of student debt into practice ownership as soon as possible. Dr. Z is a new father and is currently opening up a scratch start practice with his wife, who is also a dentist, next month. So where does she graduate from, Nova?
Yeah, we graduated the same year, same class, both Nova grads, 2015.
So the office opens next month?
The office is opening next month, correct. We're still building it right now.
Right on. And how old's the baby?
The baby is about 10 and a half weeks. We might hear him crying in the middle of the podcast. We'll have to check in on him soon, maybe.
So, my God, and when did you get married? In dental school or after?
After dental school, Memorial Day of last year.
You've had a busy time. I mean, to get married, get out of dental school, have a baby, start a practice. My God, are you pulling your hair out? I'm surprised I'm the bald one in this conversation.
I know, it's a lot going on. It's exciting, you know. I like to multitask and stay busy. Keeps me focused.
Well, I think you're amusing. So tell us about the Delusioned Dentist podcast. And I know you're keeping it real with millennials, man. You're talking about the ups and downs, the goods, the bads. How's that journey going?
The podcast started off pretty good. You know, I pumped out a few episodes. The baby came. We had to pump the brakes a little bit. But the whole goal of the podcast was just to get the word out there, even with all the debt and, you know, corporate dental and saturation, that young grads should still try and get into practice ownership as soon as possible, kind of along the same lines as what you preach. So basically, as I've been going through this process of looking to purchase a practice and now start a practice, I've just, you know, met a lot of contacts and build my networks and resources along the way. And, you know, my peers and friends are always asking me questions about this and that. So I kind of just decided to start a podcast and start interviewing the people that I've been talking to on a daily basis just to get the word out there, you know?
I started a podcast simply because I wanted to start a section on Dental Town for the podcast, and I really have achieved my goal. There's 40 of you guys now listening a show.
Yeah, I think there's even more on iTunes. Like every day I search for dentists, there's like one or two new podcasts by the week, it seems. So yeah, they're blowing up and becoming very popular very quickly.
Yeah, it's just and what's weird is the podcast technology was available when the iPhone came out in 2008, and it started to take off, and then it died, and now it's back in spades, and I think a lot of it has to do with the commute, and they just can't listen to an hour of politics on the way to work. I mean, you just can't listen to Trump and Putin and Hillary and Obama for an hour or two and from work each day, or you'd probably drive off a cliff. And what everybody's telling me is that they'll go on that Dental Town app and they'll scroll down, see what they're in the mood for, and every time they get to work, they've got one new idea, one pearl, something, you know,
Exactly.
something productive that came out of it. So I want to start off with this question. I'm 54, you're 28, my oldest son's 27. All the old timers like us, the baby boomers, we all keep hearing all this information that you millennials are all different. And as opposed to dentistry, that you're not going to want practice ownership, that you just want a 9-to-5 job, that you're not going to have 5 kids, you'll have 1 kid, you'll want to leave at 5 o'clock and be well rounded and all that kind of stuff. Do you think that's true, or do you think that's a crock?
I think it's mostly a crock. I would say most of my friends and peers, you know, want to get into practice ownership. But I would say the millennials definitely want more balance, and they want to be able to, you know, take their vacations and go on their concerts and eat out at restaurants and do all those millennial things. But I think that's even the more reason to get into practice ownership. So you have that more freedom and flexibility to do everything that a millennial wants to do. But yeah, I would say that's a bunch of crock that, you know, my friends and I definitely all want to get into private practice and practice ownership as soon as possible, for sure.
So, you know, the people that own the DSOs, they claim, you know, that, you know, half the dentists in America will be working for them in 10 years, and I just don't see them maintaining dentists. I mean, it seems like they can't keep their employees. They can't keep general dentists. What % of your class in Nova went straight into corporate, and what percent like it and say, man, this is awesome, I'm going to do this till I'm 65, and what percent have already quit? How long? You've been out 2 years, right?
I've been out 2 years. I'd say after graduation, not counting the kids that went into residency or GPR, the kids that went to work, I would say 80% went into corporate dentistry. And out of those 80%, how many like it? Probably 10%. And most of the grads last at their first job probably not even a year, maybe 6 months or even less. So I agree with you. It seems like a very unsustainable model, and I don't really see, the future growth of corporate dentistry. But I mean, it definitely serves its niche, for new grads with a first job. But like you said, with the turnover and, the unsustainability, I don't really see it. 50%, no way, not a chance.
Why do you think they have so much turnover? If you were talking to a CEO of a DSO right now, what advice would you give him or her to attract and retain and keep long-term employees? Or do you just think it's just people that go to school 8 years to become a doctor aren't the ones that line up in a row?
I mean, I think they could definitely make some small changes to, keep dentists for longer than 6 months. It all starts at the top. They just don't care about the dentists. They treat us like a commodity, which I guess we kind of are these days. But same thing with the assistants, the staff. Nobody's happy, just a bad attitude. New assistants all the time. That's probably one of the things that pisses the doctors off the most, and we're constantly having to train a new assistant. Dentistry's hard enough with patients bitching all the time. We don't have to worry about a new assistant who can't suction, can't do this, doesn't know what's going on. Plus, most of the time, they probably overload the schedule. Just a lot of lack of communication in the office, and not everyone's on the same page. Plus, the hours, they want you to work, nights and weekends. I guess a lot of millennials don't like to do that, but I personally do. That's when I make my most money, working nights and weekends. So I don't have a problem with that personally. And I guess the pay, it's just really not that good. What is it, $500, $600 guarantee? That's kind of what these places offer.
500 to 600 per day guaranteed?
It's pretty much the norm, basically, yeah.
And is that versus a percentage of production?
Well,
or
a lot of them have that daily guarantee or the percentage structure, about 28, maybe 30% of adjusted production, but it always seems to come out where the doc is just making their daily guarantee. So they're not very flexible in, giving the doctor that actual percentage. There's always write-offs, and, they factor in overhead into the formula and come up with all these bullshit formulas to kind of screw the doctor out of actually making more than the guarantee, from what I've heard and seen.
Well, dentistry, it's just a hard job. I mean, my dad, he owned Sonic Drive-Ins, and when people come to a Sonic Drive-In, you can't beat the smile off their face with a crowbar. They're so excited to eat a cheeseburger and onion rings and tater tots. And then when you go into dentistry, man, people are scared and they hurt and they're in pain, and it's a tough job when you're doing it with your assistant that you've done it for 30 years, and you got all these long-term people that are doing it with, but you just start doing things like taking out an amazing assistant who knows you, to now right. It's a stranger to just, it's so easy to turn it into a FUBAR, as they said in, what was that movie, Saving Private Ryan? FUBAR? Have you heard that term?
No, FUBAR, no. I'm not a big movie person. I have a very short attention span, so I can only watch cartoons. It's
blanked up beyond all recognition. FUBAR. Effed up beyond all recognition. But yeah, it's a tough game. It's a very tough occupation when everything's going right. But you just start adding a little bit of HR problems or scheduling problems or
yep.
That it just.
But I would say, as far as the corporate dentistry go, Heartland does seem to keep their docs the longest. I have several friends who started there, and some of them are still there, 2 years later. So I'm not sure what Heartland does different than the other ones, but Heartland definitely seems to retain their associates longer than the other ones, for sure.
And who'd be that's Rick Workman out of Effingham, and that's part of that culture. There, he's a small town boy. He grew up in a town of 10,000, and he's doing the best, I think. Who would be the second best? What do you think?
I don't really think there's a second best. Pacific has a good name, but a lot of docs that work there hate it. It's very spoon-fed for the specialists to produce a lot and the doctor owners, but an associate there, you're kind of just doing the HMO stuff and the free cleanings and, the $20 fillings. But I haven't heard too much good stuff about any other chain besides Heartland, so I can't really answer that.
Well, kudos to Rick Workman. He's been on this show. He is a class act guy. I mean, I do love the guy. He's a good guy. What subjects are you, are the millennial, you say your peers are asking you questions and things like that. I'm sure one of the biggest questions they have is their debt load. What for your class? I mean, we hear all these national numbers, but for the people that you graduated with at Nova University, which is a private school, they're a little more pricey than a public school. What was your classmates' average debt load?
I would say our average when we got out was probably around, north of 400K, close to 450,000. So with interest now, people are well over 500,000. That's probably an average.
So $500,000. Now, what percent of the students?
Just from dental school. I'm not even talking about kids who had debt from a master's program or undergrad. I'm talking just from dental school. You're looking at about 450,000 just for the 4 years at Nova.
And what percent of the class had no student loans because mom and dad paid for it all?
Probably say 25% are debt free because they have rich parents. 25%. Maybe their rich parents paid for like their tuition and then they took out some loan money to live off of. And then I would say 50% are probably at that $450,000 plus mark at least.
Yeah, that's why I don't like average numbers, because when people, some of these data, so many statistics, number one, they don't talk about, they just assume that, it's like for the country or the world or so many of those datas are incomplete. And if 25% have zero debt, that really skews.
It's going to be factored in at all.
Yeah, I mean that really skews the median average debt on some of these studies that I'm reading, and then maybe they did take it out and they just didn't point that out. But
I mean, I know kids who are 6, 7, 8, 900,000, who had some debt before dental school, went on to do 2 or 3 year specialty, maybe an ortho program for 3 years, going to be coming out 900,000 in debt.
So how many of these are having success refinancing them? You see some threads on Dental Town where there's experts popping up to try to refinance all your student loans.
I would say not too many people refinance yet. I actually just refinanced a few weeks ago. I interviewed Travis Hornsby myself, and after I secured the loan for the practice, I refinanced. So hopefully they don't hear this because I don't think I was supposed to do that as part of the practice terms, but that's all good. But yeah, most people don't really refinance. Not sure why. I guess they're scared of the high payments. And another reason, if you do want to start a practice, I think the banks obviously don't want to see, that large payment every month. So I think a lot of people haven't taken advantage of refinancing.
So how long was your finance stretched out? I mean, was it a 15-year loan, a 20-year loan?
The refinance I just did?
Yeah.
I just refinanced 10-year fix for 4.5% on 420,000. So my monthly payment's going to be like $4,300.
10-year fix, 4.5%?
Yep.
And what was it before you refinanced?
Before I refinanced, I was around 6.6, 6.7% an average.
Man, that's huge.
Yeah, it was
huge
insane.
reduction.
My interest every day was like $100. It was wild.
Huh. And 6.7, was it also 10-year fixed or?
The 6.7, no, that was just on like the federal payment program. I was on like repayee. So like I was just whatever on a random program trying to figure out what my next strategy was. So that was probably like a 25, 30-year plan or something.
So how old were you in 1980?
1980, I wasn't born yet.
What year were you born?
In 88.
Oh my God. Thanks for ruining my day. So when I was the one point I just want to make on this is, if you've been around the sun twice as many times, in 1980, you can't have debt that's not fixed. The most important thing you just said is fixed, because nobody sees any of these shocks coming. I mean, all these know-it-alls on TV, all these talking heads, they never told us the Berlin Wall was going to fall, the Arab uprising, nothing. They don't know anything. But in 1980, interest rates out of nowhere went to 21%, and people were losing their family farms just right and left. It was crazy. And, we had a hell of a shock in 2008, but I think a lot of the people your age think interest rates, like you might think 6.7% was high. When I bought my first house, when I got out of dental school, the seller had it financed for 14%. And I thought I was a genius because I got mine for 12%. and 6.7 is half of that. So you can get into trouble really, 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 really fast with floating debt, and banks love to do it. They love to say, "Yeah, we'll finance this 200 basis points over prime or whatever the hell." You have no idea where prime is going.
Yeah, I would say most of my peers aren't real concerned with the debt. They're kind of on those 25, 30-year repayment options, and they think it's going to get forgiven, and they're kind of just paying the minimums. But I guess, yeah, most people don't seem to be too concerned with it.
Do you think it's going to get forgiven?
I do not think so.
Yeah.
Why would they forgive it? If they do, it's definitely not going to apply to dentists because we're supposedly the richest people in America. So they're definitely not going to help out the dentists at all.
So what advice would you give to a dental student? When we talk about, I want to be fair with corporate, when you talk, it seems like DSOs are the bad guy, but when you look at associate problems, most of them go to private practice, and those guys aren't keeping their associates either. I mean, by the time you've been doing this 30 years, most of your friends who've had associates for 30 years say, a really good one lasts 7 to 9 years before they go out on their, I'd say about 7 years before they open up their own. But a lot of associates in private practice also have really high turnover. A lot of associates.
I've heard worse stories about private practice associateships than corporate. So I would definitely recommend a first job, go straight to corporate. Try not to sign a contract for more than a year. And basically 6 months in, start looking for a practice. I don't think you really need more than a year in a corporate setting. You could pretty much learn a lot in a year, pick up a lot of speed, make a lot of mistakes. Doesn't really matter because you got that corporate umbrella there. And after a year, that's plenty of dentistry to, figure it out.
And that's a great point that Rick Workman always makes. He says, he lives under a microscope, and all these people are looking at all, trying to find anything they're doing wrong. And he's like, God, you go into the dental office across the street and they might not even know their autoclave hasn't worked for 5 years. I mean, they don't even spore test. So so to be fair and balanced, what horror stories have you heard from associateships in private practice?
I mean, nothing too crazy, just more about like not getting paid, not getting any patient flow, senior doc obviously getting all the bigger cases and crowns, and, the associate just getting, cleanings and huge fillings and, crappy work that they don't want to do. So kind of just not really paying them and just not enough patients, and they're not making enough, just very slow.
So I agree. When you get out, you need to learn, if you're gonna work out in the NFL someday, first you need to learn a block, a tackle, a pass, and a reception.
Exactly.
You gotta just start doing some volume of fillings, crowns, cleanings, root canals. When they decided they were going to work for themselves, would you recommend buying an existing practice or doing a de novo from scratch?
My wife and I were always we never wanted to do a de novo practice just because we practice in Dallas and it's a very saturated market. There's probably, 4 dental offices in every intersection. So we didn't really want to be the 5th office on that corner, but it's pretty hard to buy a practice. We looked for about 6 to 8 months. We went through the process with 4 different ones. They all fell through for 4 different reasons. And at that point I said, screw it, we're just going to do a scratch start because at this rate, we're never going to buy a practice. A lot of them are overvalued. A lot of the practices that are on the market are pretty shady. I didn't want to, spend $500,000 or $300,000 for whatever the number is, and then have to put all the time and effort into changing it. The equipment's garbage. Everything, the floors need to be redone, repaint. Like at that point, I might as well just do a startup, even though I didn't really want to. So, I mean, if you could find that golden ideal practice out there, then yeah, I think buying an existing practice with existing patients, existing cash flow, some kind of systems are in order would be ideal, but I didn't really find that ideal scenario or even half of an ideal scenario. So we had to change our plan and doing the scratch start.
Well, the macros are completely reversed because all the guys selling graduated when America was pumping out 4,000 dentists a year, and now all the ones buying are coming out 6,000 a year. So the macros it's certainly a seller's market. I want to ask you another question. So you have your wife, you have your baby, you have your whole entertainment system going. Why did you stay in saturated Dallas? Why didn't you and your honey move 2 hours out in the middle of nowhere, Texas, where they're fracking oil, and be the only guy in town? No HMOs, no PPOs, no Medicaid, and just make bank. And then did you have a boy or a girl?
We had a boy, a little Asher.
Little Asher, and then he could go out in the backyard and shoot a .22 pistol any direction. Why did you stay in saturated Dallas?
I mean, we're city people for sure. I'm from Fort Lauderdale. She's from Santa Barbara, California. So just coming to Dallas alone, we thought was kind of we thought moving to Dallas was moving to the boondocks. I thought there's going to be people riding around on horses here. So, but yeah, I mean, we found good potential here. We had success early on with our first jobs. That's obviously why we're getting to practice ownership, as soon as we did. And I think you can be successful anywhere. I mean, probably not in, Los Angeles, California, but as saturated as Dallas is, there's still a lot of growth and potential. So we like that 3-hour flight to the East Coast to see my family, the 3-hour flight to the West Coast to see her family. And, there's no Yelp in the middle of nowhere. So we like to eat a lot. I don't know if that would work out for us.
It's so true. If you're trying to fly out of, the corners like San Diego, Seattle, Boston, or Miami, I mean, 3/4 of the pie is nothing. It's ocean. And Dallas is the most strategic center. I mean, You're basically American Airlines. You're almost a 2 to 3 hour flight from anywhere. You get the same thing from Chicago.
But 5 minutes from Dallas Love Field. That's a Southwest Airlines hub. So we got the companion pass. We got buy one, get one free flights. So we take advantage of it for sure.
Yeah, that's and Texas right now is the number one performing state economy of all 50 states.
Yeah, Texas is booming. The construction's out of control. Toyota's opening up their headquarters here any week now up in Frisco, which is about, 25 minutes north of Dallas. So it's definitely a booming economy for sure.
So why didn't you open up in Frisco? It's only 25 minutes from your Yelp coffee shop.
I don't really like working on, the upper class. I prefer the low to middle income population. My background's actually mostly in Medicaid, so I go for low fees, high volume. I don't like working on, rich people that bitch a lot. That's not my thing. But my wife does like working on them, but I don't know. I don't really like working on those kind of people.
Yeah, I would have never done pedo. And I would have never gone to Scottsdale and tried to be a cosmetic dentist for the exact same reason. My favorite patient is someone in pain, someone scared, broken tooth, toothache. But when some lady comes in and sits down, has 3 pages of stuff written about how she wants her smile changed, I just want to get out a referral slip to a psychiatrist and say, you don't need a dentist, you need mental health. So it's not right or wrong. It's just, what do you want to do? I mean, some physicians want to do cosmetic surgeries all day long, and some want to do bypasses. I mean,
Yeah, I go for the, bread and butter dentistry, just fillings, crowns, extractions, and deep cleanings. I kind of keep it simple, high volume, and just keep it burning and churning.
So what if you were talking to a kid in your practice and he was in high school and he said, hey, Zach, do you think being a dentist is a good idea? If you had to do it all over again, would you have done it?
I mean, it's a little too early to tell. If he went to Baylor, I would probably recommend it because I think Baylor is still affordable, but I would definitely not advise him to go to a private school with 5, 6, 700,000 in debt.
What's the difference in fee between Baylor, going to dental school at Baylor versus Nova?
I think Baylor, I talked to those guys, and those kids even now are coming out with like maybe low 200,000 if they took out the full 4 years.
Yeah. So do you know the story on why education's so cheap in Texas?
No, I don't.
Way back at the very beginning, and Texas, I mean, to drive from Houston to El Paso is like a 12-hour drive. In fact, a lot of people, a lot of the territory managers in Arizona also cover El Paso because El Paso is only 6 hours from Phoenix and it's 12 hours from Houston. But anyway, when they formed that state, it was just a monster state, and they had all this land, and they put huge tracts of land into the Department of Education and said any money ever used from that could only be used in education. And then, sure enough, they find oil in there. And so, I mean, that's why the largest library in the world is not the federal government. It's actually the Texas library. There's a Texas library that I think has 6 million books. I mean, they just have tons of money, and they can only spend it on education. So they don't really need the tuition money.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. But yeah, to answer your question, like I said, it's a little too early to tell, but I would recommend if that person, their primary goal is to get into practice ownership as soon as possible, then I think it's definitely still worth it. I mean, even if you're $500K in debt, you could, make that in a half a year or a year, like 1 or 2 years down the road after building a practice. So, I mean, it's definitely still worth it if you're going to buy a practice as soon as possible. Yes. I think so. I hope so. I'll let you know next month.
And not to get too personal, but what's it like marrying another dentist? What have you guys learned that might be, I mean, are you going to talk about, I mean, are you going to work together the same hours? Or are you going to work different days? So for your son, will you like not work a couple days and stay home and be dad, and then, or will you work at the same time? What is your marriage strategy?
We're still trying to figure that out, but I think our son's going to be our mascot here. We already started taking pictures.
Oh my
got
God.
run, so I think the patients are going to love him.
Wow.
As far as that, we're still trying to figure out our plan. Like I said, my wife, actually, her background is more insurance and cash and working on adults. My background is more, I like to work on kids, kind of do the extractions and the root canals. So we actually kind of do polar opposite dentistry. So even if we work together, we don't really like to see the same patients. But, until it picks up, I might keep my associateship for a few days a week. But, yeah, the goal is to both be there full time as soon as possible, Monday to Saturday, 6 days a week.
Both of you working 6 days?
Probably not both of us. We just need extra capacity for that after school rush, maybe from 4 to 7. But yeah, we don't need 2 doctors there in the morning. But yeah, I would say when we're busy, just to have 2 doctors there for a few hours would probably be good.
Isn't the dental attorney David Cohen, isn't he out of Dallas too?
Yeah, he reviewed my lease. Yeah, David Cohen.
Yeah, how's he doing?
He's good. He's a busy man. Every time I call him, he's always traveling or somewhere. I don't know. He's always a busy guy.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow, that's a lot of.
Yeah, we don't really have a plan yet. I mean, that's the beauty, though. We have all the flexibility with us both being dentists to kind of adapt on the fly and see what works and what doesn't work.
What % of your class got married to a dentist in Nova?
Well, there's a lot that are still dating. We actually just went to a wedding last weekend in Philadelphia. A girl from our class married a guy from the class below, but I would say it's a pretty high percentage, maybe 25, 30%, 25%.
And would you say them are the smartest 30%?
Yeah, definitely.
I do. I every time, I mean, people think I'm kidding. Smartest thing you could do in dental school is find your spouse. Because if you find your spouse in dental school, you just married a dentist. If you find her in the Waffle House, it's just as easy to love the waitress at the Waffle House as it is a dentist, but one of them is going to make $10,000 a month until you drop dead, and the other one's going to spend $10,000 a month until you drop dead, because the Waffle House lady thinks she's marrying a rich dentist, so she's already got her eyes on a Gucci purse. But the other thing I'm really excited about marrying a dentist is that when a dentist marries a dentist, a lawyer, or MD and MD, they have the lowest divorce rate in the entire country. So you have more to talk about, to communicate, you understand each other. I mean, she obviously knows what your day's like because she did the same damn day. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, I just think that's incredibly smart. I think those are the 35 smartest % in the class that married a classmate. And then I would say if you're going to be a lawyer, same advice, medical doctor, anything, marry someone in your same specialty, and you guys got lots of understanding and communication right out of the place. So what kind of marketing have you got planned? So first of all, did you do a retail location? You're opening next month, so you've already got your location.
Yeah, we're in like a little strip center. There's probably 15 shops in there, a sports bar, liquor store, nail salon, pizza shop. We don't have like a huge anchor store like a grocery store. I was actually looking at, a lot of different areas. Our dental real estate broker probably sent us about 20 listings. I narrowed it down to 7. I drove around to all 7 just to kind of get the feel, check it out in person. And we ended up going with the one that kind of is a more community dental office, I would say, surrounded by houses and not as much that big box, grocery store or Walmart. Because if you're next to a Walmart, there's probably about 15 to 20 dental offices within a mile of there. So we are in a strip center, but it doesn't have like a big box store. I guess we're going to be the big box in there.
And how many square feet did you get? How many ops are you going to go with?
2,450, and we're getting 7 ops in there.
Nice, 7 ops and 2,500 square feet. That's very nice. So what is your marketing plan? It seems like one of the most underfunded things people will do is they'll put in all the equipment, they'll put everything together, and then they'll launch with no marketing plan.
Well, we hired FireGang. We splurged with our search engine optimization. I'm not sure if you heard of FireGang. They they're a dental marketing company. They're setting up our website and doing our ongoing SEO every month. So they're pretty pricey. Our website's supposed to launch tomorrow. And we're also going to do the, Facebook ads and pay-per-click ads through them. I guess that's an extra budget on top of the monthly fee. I actually listened to your podcast a few weeks ago with Postcard Mania. So I hit them up last week, and we're going to do a mailer drop with them. We're going to drop 12,000 pieces for $4,500 within a 2-mile radius. I know a lot of people say that postcards are dead, but I mean, we're a startup. We're just going to cover all the bases and, kind of see what happens.
Well, the number one enemy of your entire life is always the man in the mirror. It's never the government. It's never, it's all that. And so people have so much bias. So millennials, they're on Facebook, so they want to do Facebook advertising. And when they go to the mailbox and get direct mail, they think it's garbage, it's trash. Some spotted owl lost his home, cutting down a tree, all this stuff like that. But when you look at the data, all the marketing experts that I know that can show me Excel spreadsheets and data, they say direct mail is still the crushing it one. And even though it might only be a 1% return, well, shit, if you mail to 100 homes and you get a family, that's bank.
To break even on our $4,500, let's say we average, $350 a patient, 4,500 divided by 350. We get 12 patients from 12,000 drops. We already break even. So, it's pretty low number to achieve, but I guess we'll see what happens.
Where did you get that 350 number?
Just a rough average production per patient.
Yeah, I don't like when people say, well, the lifetime value of a patient is $6,500 for an orthodontist or a general dentist, and the orthodontist receives that over 24 months, and the general dentist over 60 months. Like, yeah, but I don't pay my bills over 60 months. So I look at a statement of cash flow. If I drop $4,500 on a flyer, I need that damn money back this month. I can't average it in over the next 60 months. But you said 350, and Delta says the average new patient billing is $418. I've seen some other insurance companies that push it closer to $460.
New patients is definitely higher. I'm talking like if I do my production per patient at the end of the month for limiteds, walk-ins, people that don't stay, do treatment, just my total production per, appointment, I'm saying is $350.
And what practice management software did you go with?
We're going with Open Dental. I haven't used it yet, but that's definitely the new trend in dentistry. So we're hopping on the trend.
Yeah, and speaking of advertising, they're also the only practice management software system that does not advertise anywhere because they are just explosive. Like Google didn't advertise for a decade. They kept crashing their own servers. The last thing they was going to do in advertising. So why did you go with Open Dental?
Just because everyone says it's free and it's just as easy as Dentrix. I use Dentrix in probably 95% of the offices I work at, but I have no problem with doing something for free. We need more money for marketing. So I don't care if the tooth is on the right side or the left side or the top or the bottom. As long as there's a tooth there, Open Dental should be fine.
Yeah, it seems like on Dental Town, most of the if you do a search on Dental Town for Open Dental, those are raving fan threads. Everybody seems to love it. What other advice would you give these kids starting a practice? Did you do demographic research? Did you have anybody do demographics, or did you pass on that?
Demographics we did was our dental realtor, when he provided each location for us, it came with like demographics as far as the median income, the population breakdown as far as race, ethnicity, age, and stuff like that. But we didn't do anything more intense than that. We're kind of familiar with the market here. Like I said, we drove around to all the areas and kind of just wanted to feel it out.
So you didn't get a formal demographic study?
Not a formal one, no. We just use Dental Space Advisors. Evan Reynolds, he's a local guy here in Dallas, which basically everyone uses. He negotiates the leases and provides a sample demographic report. It's like 1 or 2 pages, not the full comprehensive one. But it did have like the dentist, the population ratio. It had a lot of the metrics.
Who's the CEO of Dental Space Advisors?
His name is Evan Reynolds.
Sharp man?
Yeah, very sharp. Everyone uses him here in Dallas.
Can you email him and me and introduce us?
Yeah, absolutely.
Even though I hate everyone from Dallas who is a Cowboys fan, maybe he's one of the truly smart people in Dallas who's not a Cowboys fan. Are you a big Cowboys fan?
No, definitely not. I'm a Dolphins fan. I'm from Fort Lauderdale.
Man, they crushed it back in the day. That was so fun who was that guy?
Zonka.
Who was the quarterback for years there?
Greasy?
Who?
Greasy?
No, I mean way back in the day.
I don't know. You want me to call my grandma and ask her?
Dolphins, legendary. Dan Marino.
Oh, I thought you were talking about like in the 70s when they were winning Super Bowls. Yeah, Dan Marino was more of a 80s and 90s guy.
Yeah, he was a fun guy to watch, man. Just a very fun guy to watch. So what supplier did you go with? How are you going to buy your supplies? You going to do that online, or are you going to do it through typical distributor? What was your thinking there?
I know this Darby guy. My dad goes to a business club meeting in South Florida. He kind of hooked me up with him, so I've been talking to him.
Is your dad a dentist?
No, he fights insurance companies when people need to make claims, and he goes and gets them more money and then gets reimbursed, at 20% of what he gets the customer.
For personal injury or medical or car wreck?
No,
or?
floods, fires, hurricanes, tornadoes, natural disasters, anything.
Yeah. And he hooked you up with
insurance adjuster, basically.
And you said he hooked you up with a friend that was...
Yeah, one of his guys from his business club meeting is a Darby rep. So I've been talking to him, but I'm also going to, cross-reference his quotes with, I guess a lot of people use Safeco or Net32, a lot of the online players. So I kind of got to plan back and forth and obviously go with the cheapest rate.
So where'd you buy all your dental equipment, chairs, equipment, and who installed it?
We bought that from a local guy in Dallas, Scott Perry. His company's called Southwest Medical and Dental. He kind of comes on board early, does a lot of the work beforehand as far as checking out all the electrical and plumbing and air conditioning before I sign the lease. He also connects you with the engineer to get your drawings done. He's kind of like your project manager along the way. He's been checking in on all the permitting and kind of just stays on top of everything. But yeah, he sells equipment. That's his main job.
Do you tell him that he can list that equipment for free on the classified ads on Dentaltown? Have you seen the classifieds?
Yeah, of course. I used to sell stuff on there after dental school. I bought all my classmates' used supplies, and I flipped it on your classified section for double.
Nice. Did you really? You seem to be a very, very sharp businessman. You got one eye on business and one eye on cost. And if you got one eye on the customer and one eye on cost, and too many people, they just take their eye off cost and they just rationalize why they should buy all this expensive stuff and expensive overhead, and they just think it'll be all great. And it's like, dude, you're not looking at the cost. That you seem extremely cost focused.
I mean, I don't mind splurging on certain things if I think it's going to give me a good ROI. Like personally, I want to buy electric hand pieces, even though my wife's freaking out, but I can't really function without them. So we're kind of splurging on there. I like to splurge on certain things, but yeah, at the end of the day, I definitely, got to keep the eye on cost for sure.
That's a cultural thing. I mean, you go to America, everybody use air driven when all the patients hate the noise, and then you go to other countries in Europe and it's all electric driven. Why do you think some of the smartest countries in the world that are smarter than us, like the Germans, Switzerland, Sweden, why do you think they're into electric and we're into air? Just cultural, always been that way?
I don't know. Electrical is just more efficient. It's cleaner, smoother, faster. It's just so much better. I don't know. I mean,
and I had torque.
Yeah, I mean, the burr doesn't get caught. When I use an air-driven thing, the burr hits the tooth and then it stops cutting. I think that's another problem with associateships. They don't like to buy you new burrs. So some of the burrs I use are like 50 years old. It's kind of pathetic.
Well, the biggest problem these DSOs have is they say they just can't get the dentist to agree on the same burrs. So you got 3 dentists in a room, and some of these dentists want 15 different burrs for a filling and a crown prep, and I
basically use one burr. That's it.
For what?
I can use one burr for anything. It doesn't matter.
What burr is it?
Just like a big diamond burr, like a 331 diamond.
Yeah, and it's so tough for the assistants because, I mean, if there's 2 or 3 dentists working in there and they all use different burrs, I mean, you got to get down to a burr block. And I think if you can't, I mean, what do you think is too hardcore of a limit on burrs? Do you think the number is 5? Do you think it's 7? At what number, if you were the master dentist of all the dental offices and it was your burr block, I mean, how many could you reduce that to for a filling, a crown, and a root canal prep?
Filling, crown, root canal, probably 3.
Yeah, so that's what I think. I think 5 is Easy number.
5 is the max. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't use too many burrs. Like you could do anything with any burr. I don't know. People have it in their heads that they need 30 burrs.
I know, and you should just have a round deal with those 5 burrs. And if you're a dental assistant, just tell your dentist to man up. And here's your damn 5 burrs. And if you need any more than that, you need to go see a shrink. Because I remember one of the most taken out of concepts, thrown under a bridge statement ever made was by Omar Reed. The poor guy said clearly. He said that most people, when they're doing a crown prep, they drill, rinse, look, dry, drill, rinse, look, dry, drill. He said, but if you measure, which he did, of the actual time that your burr was actually on the tooth, it was only 90 seconds. So prep it in 90 seconds. Why does it take you half an hour to do a filling? Because you keep rinsing, dry, looking, and so everybody said that.
Yeah, I could do full mouth fillings in like an hour.
Wow. Yeah. You're a fast, efficient man. So you didn't mention the big ones. I mean, Shine is a quarter of the market. Patterson's a quarter of the market. You got Benco, Burkhart. How come none of those companies earned your business?
I just heard to stay away from them. I heard they're just too expensive. But I did hear, some of my friends who are practice owners, work with the Shine reps who I guess Shine will match, any price to try and earn your business. But seems like they're all, lowering their prices to compete with each other. So it seems like if you find a good rep at any of those companies, I think they'll match, a lot of the prices from wherever you find it.
But it is a game, though. I mean, if I go into Walmart, that's the price. And if you're Rick Workman and I'm Howard Farran, we still buy the same gallon of Clorox bleach for the same price. I just think it's very bizarre that the pricing, it's always a game. It's always a trend. Like, we'll match a price. Well, when I go into Fry's, they don't say, well, we'll match the price of Safeway. It's just, here's their damn prices. And everybody gets the same price.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So what about the high cost items, CAD cam, laser, CBCT? A lot of dental students are, those are big ticket items. What is your thoughts on those big ticket items?
I don't have any thoughts on those. I don't do any of that. Like I said, maybe we'll adapt and grow over time and maybe add some of those things, but none of my patients really ask or need any of that.
I know. I think the same day crown that everybody keeps talking about, this unicorn that comes in the office saying, I want a same day crown. All my patients say, I'm in pain and I'm afraid of how much it's going to cost. They all talk about pain and cost.
That's it.
And same day comes up about once every 10 years, and everybody else like, well, did you take my insurance? Can you get me in today? My tooth broke.
I haven't had a patient ask about a same day crown yet, and I don't think I ever will, so I'm not too worried about CAD cam.
Yeah, so pain and cost is where the money is. So let's talk about the cost first. Are you going to sign up for PPOs, Medicaid, Medicare, Delta? What's your thoughts there?
We're doing everything. We're getting credentialed with Medicaid. Like I said, that's my background. We hired Veritas, an insurance credentialing company. We're going in-network with all the PPOs. We're doing everything. Flexible cash patients. We're going to offer in-house financing. We don't want any barriers to treatment.
And where's Veritas out of?
That's a good question. I don't know. Like every time I call him, there seems to be different numbers. There's like a Utah number. There's an Arizona number. I'm not really sure. The guy's name is Ben Toomey.
Yeah, I know Ben.
Tooney? Benjamin Tooney?
Yeah, you know why they have Arizona numbers and Utah numbers?
Why is that? They have different offices?
Because Utah's half Mormon, and half of those Mormons have some cousin, nephew, sister somewhere in Mesa or Gilbert, Arizona. It's a huge Mormon population down here. I don't know one Mormon dentist who doesn't have family in Utah.
Yeah, they actually sent me back a fee schedule today from Cigna, so it looked like they negotiated some decent fees.
Nice. Okay, and what about here's another one all the graduates are asking. They all come out of Nova or any dental school and say, I didn't place an implant, I didn't do an Invisalign, blah, 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 blah. And there's so much noise about what they should go do. I mean, what are you going to focus on? Are you going to learn how to place implants, sinus lifts, bone graft? Are you going to learn Invisalign? Are you going to learn sleep apnea? There's so many things and there's so few hours in the day. What did you not learn at Nova that you think you might focus on?
I I don't really focus on any of that fancy stuff. I'm a very simple bread and butter guy. I just kind of take the patient out of pain, whether it's an extraction or a root canal, throw a crown on, do a deep cleaning, some fillings. That's pretty much it. A lot of the patients around here, they can't really afford implants. Like I said, I'm in a more of a low to middle income area. And yeah, I'd rather just learn how to run and pass and block before I kind of tackle any of that stuff. So
did you grow up in a low to middle class neighborhood? Is that your roots?
no, not really. Kind of grew up, middle class, normal kid.
But you just like working on those people better.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of happened by accident. I was actually applying to pedo when I was a fourth year at Nova, and didn't work out too well. I didn't have a good rank. We partied too much down in Nova, so I was in the 75th percentile. I guess for pedo, you need to be at least in the top third or half. So I actually just found this job out in Dallas where you could work on kids as a general dentist, and my wife always wanted to work at Pacific, and she found a job here or there in Dallas, so we kind of just moved here randomly. And
wow, so you would have been a pediatric dentist.
Yeah, that was originally my plan, but it didn't work out. So now I basically focus on pedo as a general dentist, and I love referring to pedo. So
well, you're in Texas, and they just had the landmark decision that there aren't specialties. Some dentist was calling himself as specialized in implantology. The Texas Dental Association, tripartite of the ADA, said you can't do that. The judge said, "Who are you? You're just a membership organization. You're not a government." And I know a lot of specialists. Some of the most famous endodontists in literature actually graduated. There wasn't even such thing as an endo specialty. They just had practice limited endo. And I know several small towns where there'd be like 5, 7, 8, 9 dentists. And one dentist one day just went to all of his buddies, says, "Dude, I just want to do endo. So I'm just going to do practice limited endo. I won't do the crown. I won't have a hygienist." Same with pediatric dentists. I mean, there are kids going to these small towns where all the older grandpa dentists like me do not want to ever do a pulpotomy. I'd rather be taken out in the backyard and just beat with a stick. And if you wanted,
so easy.
Yeah, my gosh. Yeah. But anyway, but back to the low income. I have to tell you. So my practice is in Phoenix. Everybody in this area calls it Ahwatukee, but it's actually Phoenix. It's just the neighborhood. Everybody calls it Ahwatukee. But I'm across the street from the Guadalupe Indian Reservation. 5,000 Guadalupean Indians and an estimated another 5,000 illegal non-citizens, whatever. In 30 years, I've never had a problem with not any of those patients. They're all dirt poor. They pay in cash. They're always smiling. They're the only ones who bring me food, tamales, all the nicest people in the world. And then there's this little pocket of rich people about 3 miles away from my office called the Equestrian Center. And my God, I mean, these are people that drive in with Mercedes-Benz and don't pay for their 10 veneers. And it's like all your money problems, they always come from the rich people, because a fool and your money will soon be parted. And the rich people are rich for one reason: they don't pay their bills, they don't pay their taxes, they don't pay their dentist.
It's true. I haven't had too many problems working on patients yet. They're very grateful, appreciative, and a lot of the patients out here are obviously Mexican, so it's definitely easy to work on the Spanish people for sure.
So are you going to get bilingual yourself, or are you going to get bilingual assistants? How are you going to handle that?
I mean, I speak un poquito español. My wife speaks a little Spanish, and all our staff is going to be bilingual. So all the staff will speak Spanish, and my wife speaks Spanish too.
So have you started hiring any staff yet?
We're kind of working on that. We've been interviewing for a few weeks. We have some marketers that we hired, but we haven't officially hired our assistants or front desk yet, but we have a few people in mind.
I want to give you the tip of a lifetime on a startup practice hiring staff, okay? So these people that come in your office with 10 years experience, so look at the experience they're in. Some dental office with high overhead, problems, staff problems, all this stuff. And you say, well, man, you got 10 years experience. Every time that girl comes in to interview for the front office, say, well, how many years have you been doing this? She'll say, I've been doing this 10 years. What computer system were you on? Dentrix? Really? Just tell me one question. How many reports does Dentrix have? Does that 50, 100, 500? What reports do you, and she'll always blame it, not on the man in the mirror. Well, Dr. Zach, he never took us to the training, and we should have got a $60,000 consultant to come in to teach us how to use it. So 10 years I mean, after 1 year on Facebook, you knew how all the buttons worked, but you sat at that office for 10 years and you don't know any of your costs. And here's my point. If you hire every multi-gazillionaire that I'm personal friends with, all say the same thing about HR. They say, but by the time I had my first 5 employees, 2 of them were bookkeepers. And they started either Pizza Hut or Sonic or Godfathers or construction companies. They always knew their cost. And if you hire someone that comes in for a receptionist, she'll want if she has 10 years experience in dentistry, she'll want 25, 35% more than a bookkeeper.
No.
A bookkeeper.
We're looking at a $12 an hour, girls. The labor's pretty affordable out here in Dallas.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, if you got a bookkeeper, you can train her the damn dentistry, but her mind is totally different. Yeah. The reason that girl was on Dentrix for 10 years and didn't utilize any of the functions because she has no interest in it. We all have the same brain. We just have different interests. And those bookkeepers have a total bookkeeping mind. For instance, most dental assistants couldn't organize your dental supplies if you put a gun to their head because they want to work with their hands. They're artists. They like making temporaries. They like patient care. They don't want to set up assisting systems of supplies. And you go in there and look at their numbers, and 1 month their supplies is 4%. Next month is 8%. It's like, dude, that's 100% variance. But if you hired a bookkeeper for $12 an hour and taught her how to suction and do all the dentistry stuff, then all of your supplies they're just a completely different mindset. In my last 30 years, the people I hired that came from bookkeeping or banking, I stole a few receptionists from Chase Bank over the years. And my God, they just have this complete detail-oriented, dot the I, cross the T mindset, and you'll always know your cost.
My dream's always been to go over to Chick-fil-A and just hire a staff from there. I might head over there after this podcast and hire a few girls.
Why Chick-fil-A?
Because all they say is my pleasure with a smile. They're very and respectful, and they're always happy. I've never seen such a thing.
Yeah, well, they got some very unique policies. Number one, they're not corporate stores. They're all franchisee owned. They only approve 0.04% of their franchisees. They'll only let you have one store. They want you and your family committed to this one location. They don't want you to buy up half a dozen Subways and try to be a millionaire and not be working them, you know what I mean? So you only get one restaurant. They vet you to death. It's all about vetting franchisees. That was Burger King's biggest mistake, is they would just sell a Burger King to anybody who showed up with $1 million. And
that's actually Chick-fil-A day today. You go get a free chicken sandwich if you dress up like a cow.
Yeah, I get that free every day I go there.
Questions for you about your practice here. If we could turn the tables a little bit.
Sure.
Let's do it. Yeah, I know you always talk about Shark Tank. It's one of our favorite shows. So I wanted to ask you some Shark Tank questions about your practice. First one is, what is your new customer acquisition cost?
I would say that it averages about $150 a head on today's dental office and about the same on a Dental Town new registrant.
And then how do you guys market, and how many of your patients come back for recalls, or what percentage?
We run the hygiene. They all get reappointed that day. And the office manager, Robert, doesn't go home until all the hygiene. That's the majority of the backdoor attrition is you're just, our definition of an active patient is how many people right now are scheduled for a practice, an appointment. And if you're not scheduled for anything, then you're not an active patient. And and everybody knows the recall, and they talk about the recall one, but they don't realize a couple other ones that they can do, which is the endodontist all want to see you back for a PA after 1 year to make sure that periapical lesion all healed up and all that. And the oral surgeons, at 60 months, 5 years, 20% of the implants have peri-implantitis, and a lot of this can be discovered and treated at 1 year. Maybe there's a piece of cement, something's wrong, but it gives you one more follow-up scheduled appointment. Because if I just say to you, Zach, when you're leaving, Zach, by the way, I warranty this root canal, but I have to see you in 1 year for a post-op. Well, that's just another way to close that back door and keep you active in my practice.
So how do you define an active patient? Someone you've seen in the last year, and how many active patients do you have?
Anybody scheduled for an appointment.
And how many active patients do you have?
I don't know that number, but we're switching over the 4th of July. We've been on soft dent for 30 years.
Yeah.
And we're switching to open dental starting to July 4th. And I'm told that I'll be able to pull up those numbers on my smartphone.
Cool. What else here? I guess you always talk about, a closing rate that the average doc only sells, 1 in 3 fillings. A great rate would be 2 in 3. So how do you go about getting closer to that 2 in 3 acceptance rate? What do you do personally?
I think it's how you make people feel. And I do all the betting on the hungry, humble dentist who has a great chairside manner and likes people. And all the ones that are lazy or they're not hungry, but if they make you feel bad, if they don't connect. And I mean, I've given every 80-year-old lady a bear hug when they come in, when they leave. Jan is the most warmest, friendliest dental assistant. I think far more of the patients like Jan than they like me. It's the chairside manner. But I think that answer your question. This is what I think the reality is. The average dentist has a 38% close rate, so a third. A
Right.
third of the people aren't going to do anything they're told, whether it's, they won't even quit drinking when they're on insulin, but you can get that middle third. So I think what is demonstrably doable that you can see coast to coast in urban, rural, rich, and poor is a 2 out of 3 accept treatment. But the average is going to be a 1 out of 3. And so,
Do you talk dentistry with your patients, or do you leave that to your staff?
if you're in there on a recall, my hygienist, if she sees something, she'll take an x-ray, she'll diagnose. I know you say, well, that's illegal. Well, it's just semantics. I mean, I let her talk. I let them all talk. So if it's an emergency patient, I'm in there, but if it's a recall, but everybody is talking and everybody pretty much uses the same verbiage. And I think, we have 8 operatories, so we got 2, 4 with the central sterilization in the middle. And over the years, everybody talking, I hear a lot of hygienists say, well, I don't know what the doctor's going to say. Well, how do you not know what the doctor's going to say? I mean, you should know that this is a cavity and he's going to want to do a filling. You should know
Right.
You should know when it's recurrent decaying or a big old MOD and it's going to be a crown. You should be on the same page. And the only way you can build long-term loyalty is you got to keep staff, long-term. I mean, like I say, I think you should shoot for a 7-year average on employees. I mean, employees move, they get married, they get divorced, they retire, they turn into babysitters for their grandchildren. But when I see $1 million practice, 80% of them just are doing cleanings, fillings, exams. They're not placing implants. They're not doing sleep apnea. They're not doing they're just a bread and butter. They got 2 or 3 hygienists, 2 or 3 chairs. But what they have is usually an average staff member that average of about 7 years. And the staff are all personal, warm, and fuzzy. And if everybody is making you secrete dopamine and oxytocin and serotonin, and they stay there a long time, that's it, because you sell the invisible. And when Zach looks at me and says, dude, you have 4 cavities, give me $1,000, I'm a deer looking at headlights, because I know every time my engine light comes on, if I take it to the oil change guy, he just says I need my oil change. If I take it to Lexus, they always tell me I need $1,000 worth of all this stuff and your scheduled maintenance for this and that, and you're just standing there. Who do you believe? Who do you trust? I mean, even when my air conditioner goes out in Phoenix when it's 118 degrees, I'll usually wait 2 or 3 days because there's only one guy that I trust who actually, he's like 70 years old. And he's the only guy that, I don't care if I have to buy a new air conditioner. I just don't want to buy one for your commission to paycheck. I only want to buy one if I really need to buy one.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just try and talk as little as dentistry with my patients. The more you talk, I feel the more you convince them not to do treatment sometimes.
Yep.
Switching gears here, I'm a big Yelper. I'm looking at your Yelp page here. I know you're not a big fan of Yelp, so what's going on? What are your feelings on Yelp? My wife and I haven't eaten at a restaurant that we haven't Yelped in the last 5 years.
Yeah, that's a millennial deal. I've never seen one of my dentist friends. I've never seen anybody use Yelp. In fact, you're the first dentist that held up Yelp and and showed me Yelp. It's a millennial thing.
Yeah, I'm a big Yelper. I used to be Yelp Elite. I've written 56 reviews, but I haven't written one in like over a year.
So what do you Yelp for? Mostly restaurants?
I mean, pretty much anything and everything, but yeah, mostly restaurants. Like I said, we haven't eaten at a restaurant in probably 4 or 5 years that we didn't Yelp and at least look at the pictures, see what the best thing is on the menu. But yeah, I mean, I'll Yelp an optometrist I went to a few weeks ago for an eye exam. I Yelped pretty much Yelp anything.
Huh.
Used furniture. I mean, we bought some chairs a few weeks ago. We want to get them reupholstered. I looked it up on Yelp.
We'll talk more about Yelp because I mean, when you go into Dental Town and you do a search for Yelp, every thread on Yelp on Dental Town, it's not very warm and fuzzy. Would you agree with that assessment or not?
Yeah, I would agree, but I think those people bitching about Yelp probably bitch about everything. So it's more probably their personality.
So you would recommend that everybody, old and young, start adopting Yelp. Are you going to advertise on Yelp? Are you going to give them money?
Don't really know the logistics of that. I've never used Yelp from a business owner's side, but I mean, I think I'll get enough reviews just through asking my patients that even if they filter out half of them, I should still have enough where hopefully I don't have to pay them. But yeah, I mean, if I have to pay them for them to show my good reviews, then yeah, if it's probably a good ROI, then I'll do it. It's not a big deal.
Maybe I'll do that. Maybe it'll convince me. Maybe I'll download Yelp someday. By the way, I just switched to the iPhone 7.
There you
From
go.
the iPhone 6, but I only did it because I dropped my phone and cracked the screen. So I thought, well, I'll just upgrade to the new one. I can't.
Yeah, the new camera's great. You should go in the portrait feature and go take some pictures of your grandkids. It's awesome.
I haven't noticed one changing feature with it yet, but you say they're in there.
The camera has a new feature with the portrait setting where it takes pretty good pictures. But yeah, besides that, yeah, the iPhone's pretty much seems to be the same phone every year.
Well, that was the fastest hour I've ever done it. So we went 3 minutes over. We did an hour 3. I could talk to you all day long. Good luck on your marriage. Good luck on that little baby. Good luck on that new practice. Good luck on hiring your first employees. I hope you. And one more piece of advice on those employees. If she's adorable, but her husband's in the Army, he's going to be deployed every 2 or 3 years, and they'll be gone. Another red flag with women is single women move to different cities with all these dreams, and as soon as they get pregnant, they move right back to wherever mom lives. And so you hire this great assistant, and her mom and dad are in Houston, and she's then there in Dallas. So getting the best long-term staff you can get is to have people that were born in that zip code or that city. So
that's the goal.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on. It was a fun talk here.
Oh man, Zach, thanks for doing your show. Thanks for putting it up on Dental Town, and thank you for all that you're doing to help everyone's journey in dentistry.
All right. Have a nice day. Talk to you soon.